Hasn't come yet? Okay. A ver. You let me know if Malena appears, because Malena and Alicia, they are not here.
¿Qué han hecho las ratas?
Se hicieron la rata estas chicas, por Dios. Okay, so,
Desaparecieron, ¿viste?
sí, ahora no están. Well, so they say they are putting barricades. This is what near the Gardi list, it may be something. God, I hope so. God, I wish they do everything here like they did in Russia. Then we'd be free. We couldn't go back to the States for a while, but there wouldn't be no MPs. So again, no, this idea of the Russian Revolution and the idea that they were going to be free. We have to remember that this was 1919. So the Russian Revolution was very new, let's say. So yes, Malena, what were you saying? Because you are silenced. Yes.
No, she's mute.
He says to hunt us if we are criminals. The MP.
Yes.
To hunt us.
Yes.
De cazarlos, ¿no?
Cazarlos como si fueran criminales, sí. Because this is what the MPs did, no? They were hunting for deserters. Yes. Well, so then Andrew starts talking with this boy, Al. Say you are from San Francisco, aren't you? Sure. Well, I wonder if you knew a fellow I knew at training camp, a kid named Fuseli from Frisco. Knew him. Jesus, man, he's the best friend I've got. You don't know where he is now, do you? So you see how the characters start communicating, no, near the end. I saw him here in Paris 2 months ago. Oh, well, I'll be damned. God, that's great. Al's voice was staccato from excitement. So you knew Dan at training camp. The last letter from him was about a year ago. Dan just got to be a corporal. He's a damn clever kid. Dan is, and ambitious too. One of the guys always makes good. God, I'd hate to see him this way. Do you know, we used to see a hell of a lot of each other in Frisco, and he always used to tell me how he'd make good before I did. He was goddamn right, too. Said I was too soft about girls. Did you know him real well? Yes, I even remember that he used to tell me about a fellow he knew who was called Ald. So you see, there is this connection, no, between them. But Al thinks that Fuseli has become a corporal and that he has been promoted. He doesn't know that Fuseli has also been, in a way, rejected, no, by the army. And he says that Fuseli is more intelligent than him. And he says, but honest, I've tried hard to make good in this army. I've done everything a feller could. And all I did was to get into a cushy job in the regimental office. But Dan, God, he may even be an officer by this time, no? Thinking that Fuseli had improved his situation. No, he's not that, said Andrews. Look here, you ought to keep quiet with that hand of yours. Damn my hand, or it'll all right if I forget about it. You see, my foot slipped when they shunted the car I was just climbing into. And I guess I ought to be glad I wasn't killed. But Gid, when I think that if I hadn't been a fool about that girl, I might have been home by now. Because this man, Al, was in an outfit, in a battalion that was sent to America. But he didn't go because he was with that girl. So now he repents. The Chink says they are putting up barricades on the Avenue Magenta. That means business, kid. Business, nothing. One tank and a few husky Senegalese make your goddamn socialists run so fast they won't stop till they get to Dijon. So you guys ought to have more sense. So obviously a handful of socialists, as he said, are not going to make a revolution. Yes, obviously. Okay, shut up a minute. I thought I heard something, said Crisfield suddenly, going to the window. They held their breath. The bed creaked as Al stirred uneasily. No, it wasn't anything. I thought I'd heard people singing. The International, cried Al. So the people were thinking the revolution, the International, no, la Internacional. Well, so you see how they had to live in perpetual fear. They hear some noises and they are afraid that the MPs were looking for them. So they are always afraid. Well, the door opened slowly to let in a tall, stoop-shouldered man with a long face and long teeth. Who's the frog? He asked in a startled way with one hand on the doorknob. All right, Smithy, it ain't a frog. It's a guy Chris knows. He's taking his uniform off. Because this one thinks that Andrews is a French person, a Frenchman. Low, buddy, said Smithy, shaking Andrews' hand. God, you look like a frog. That's good, said Andrews. There's hell to pay, broke out Smithy breathlessly. You know Gus Evans and the little black-haired guy goes round with him? They've been picked up. So there are other two deserters who have been picked up. I seen them myself with some MPs at Place de la Bastille. And the guy I talked to under the bridge where I slept last night said a guy told him they were going to clean the walls out of Paris if they had to search through every house in the place. So the military police are looking for everybody, yes, in every place. If they come here, they'll get something they ain't looking for, muttered Crisfield. I'm going down to Nice, getting too hot around here, said Slippery. I've got travel orders in my pocket now. How did you get them? Easy as pie, said Slippery, lighting a cigarette and puffing affectedly towards the ceiling. I met up with a guy, a second loot, in the Knickerbocker bar. We gets drunk together and goes on a party with two girls I know. In the morning, I get up bright and early, and now I got 5,000 francs, a leaf slip, and a silver cigarette case. So what did this second lieutenant do? He went to a bar with another American and two girls. He made him get drunk, and then he stole everything. The pass, yes, to go on the train, the money. Yes? What did you say? Sorry?
No, man, the money too.
The money, everything. No, so this is the way in which now he can go to Nice because he has everything that belonged to the other soldier. But gosh darn it, I don't see how you can go around with a guy and drink with him and then rob him, cried Al from the bed, because Al is an innocent person too. No different from cleaning a guy up at Craps. Well, and suppose that fellow knew that I was only a bloody private. Don't you think he'd have turned me over to the MPs like winking? No, I don't think so, said Al. They are just like you and me, scared to death they'll get in wrong, but they won't light on a fellow unless they have to. That's a goddamn lie. So you see again, the two positions, yes, the MPs do this, hunt soldiers, hunt deserters, as Malena said, because they want to, because they like to do it. And another position, this is Al's idea, is that they do it because they are obliged to do it, but that they are not bad. They are like you and me. And so Andrew says, they are all sorts of officers. They are all sorts of us. But you damn fools, quit arguing, cried Smithy. What the hell are we going to do? It ain't safe here no more. That's how I look at it. They were silent. At last, Crisfield said, what you going to do, Andy? I hardly know. I think I'll go out to Saint Germain to see a boy I know there who works on a farm to see if it is safe to take a job there. I won't stay in Paris. Then there's a girl here I want to look up. I must see her. You remember this boy that he says he's going to meet?
Yes,
The
yes.
farmer, the farmer from Brittany.
Yes.
Who had told him, yes, if you want, I can give you a hand, etc. No?
Yes, this man fetched him to some place.
Yes, when he was at the castle, yes.
Yes.
And he told him that he was looking for a job at on a ship.
Yes, maybe he drove a wagon or something like this, or a kind of carro.
Ah, claro, sí, sí. He had a cart and he transported Andrews in his cart.
Claro.
Yes. Mm. And he said, you remember that we laughed because the people from this section are very, very hard and very, even now, no? The ones who did this famous strike, los naranjas, ¿se acuerdan? En París, las huelgas esas, were precisely from Brittany. ¿Cómo lo llamaban? Los no sé qué naranja, ¿no?
No, los chalecos amarillos.
Amarillos,
Sí,
los chalecos.
Amarillos.
Los chalecos amarillos. Those were especially from Brittany, the farmers who asked to have their taxes reduced.
Yes, because of the price of the oil
Exactly.
for the tractors.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because they were farmers. This boy was from that region, and he said he was going to America. You remember he was going to Peru or to Brazil. Well, now perhaps he could get a job for Andrews. This is what Andrews thought. But the idea is that he's going to go to Chartres, where he will meet Genevieve. Remember, he's looking for her. You'd better be damn careful. They probably shoot you if they catch you, said Slippery. And here you have this idea. That's why I sent you the information. They didn't shoot them, although some of them died in prison. Andrew shrugged his shoulders. Well, I'd rather be shot than go to Leavenworth for 20 years. God, I would. Leavenworth, remember, is the prison in England where they kept the deserters. Well, how do you fellas eat here? We buy stuff and the dog face cooks it for us. Got anything for this noon? I'll go see if I can buy some stuff, said Andrews. It's safer for me to go out than for you. All right, here's 20 francs, said Slippery, handing Andrews a bill with an offhand gesture. Crisfield followed Andrews down the stairs. Say, Andy, do you think there's anything in that revolution business? I hadn't never thought they could back the system that way. They did in Russia. Then we'd be free, civilians, like we all was before the draft. But that ain't possible, Andy. That ain't possible, Andy. Well, Crisfield is very pessimistic, yes? Well, they talk about the situation, they talk about the barricades, and why they tore down some of the iron guards around the trees, if you call that barricades, but they are cowards. Whenever the cops charge, they run. They are dirty cowards. And so we know that this aggressive strike was pulled down by the policemen. Yes, it was defeated, let's say. Then later he says, Slippery seen an MP nosing around in front of the gin mill. Good God, they beat it. The trouble is Al's too sick. The problem is that they cannot move Al, because Al is the one with the hand, the wounded hand, no? I'll stay with you, Al. No, if you know somewhere to go, beat it, Chris. I'll stay here with Al and talk French to the MPs if they come. We'll fool them somehow. Andrews felt suddenly amused and joyous. So when he's facing danger, like at this moment, he feels amused. Yes, for Andrews, it's like a joke. So he tells Crisfield to leave, and he's going to stay with Al. Honest to God, Andy, I'd stay if it weren't that sergeant knows. Beat it, Chris, there may be no time to waste. So long, Andy. It's funny, Al, said Andrew, sitting on the edge of the bed and unwrapping the package of food. I'm not a damn bit scared anymore. I think I'm free of the army. Al, how's your hand? I don't know. Oh, how I wish I was in my old bank at Koblenz. I wasn't made for bucking against the world this way. If we had old Dan with us. So poor Al, no? Thinking of his friend. Funny that you know, Dan. He'd have a million ideas for getting out of this fix. But I'm glad he's not here. He'd bawl me out so, for not having made good. He's a powerful, ambitious kid, is Dan. But it's not the sort of thing a man can make good in, Al, said Andrew slowly. They were silent. There was no sound in the courtyard. Only very far away the clatter of a patrol of cavalry over cobblestones. The sky had become overcast, and the room was very dark. The mouldy plaster peeling off the walls had streaks of green in it. The light from the courtyard had a greenish tinge that made their faces look pale and dead, like the faces of men that have long been shut up between damp prison walls. And Fuseli had a girl named Maybe, said Andrews. Oh, she married a guy in the Naval Reserve. They had a grand wedding, said Al. So,
Poor Fuseli.
poor Fuseli.
Poor Fuseli, yes. Poor Fuseli.
This is the last thing we learn from Fuseli and from Al, yes? Well, in the next section, section 4, we have Andrews at this place, Charles.
Genevieve.
Yes,
With Genevieve, yes.
At last I got to you. John Andrews had caught sight of Genevieve on a bench at the end of the garden under an arbor of vines. Her hair flamed bright in a splotch of sun as she got to her feet. She held out both hands to him. How good looking you are like that, she cried. He was conscious only of her hands in his hands and of her pale brown eyes and of the bright sun splotches and the green shadows fluttering all about them. So you are out of prison, she said, and demobilized. Yes, this is what she says, and this is what she thinks. Because he's dressed like a civilian, and so she thought that he is not a member of the army. How wonderful. Why didn't you write? I have been very uneasy about you. How did you find me here? Your mother said you were here. And how do you like it, my Boissac? So we know now that they are at this place, no, where they have a country house. She made a wide gesture with her hand. They stood silent a moment, side by side, looking about them. In front of the arbor was a parterre of rounded box bushes, edging beds where disorderly roses hung in clusters of pink and purple and apricot color. And beyond it, a brilliant emerald lawn, full of daisies, sloped down to an old great house with, at one end, a squat round tower that had an extinguisher-shaped roof. Beyond the house were tall, lush green poplars, through which glittered patches of silver-gray river and of yellow sand banks. From somewhere came a drowsy scent of mown grass. This bucolic description.
Yes, completely different to the other, no? To the other place. It completely is, yes.
And this is, I don't know if you saw that I sent you 2 little pieces of Madame Bovary.
Yes.
Simply,
the description is,
you see, simply to show you how, in a way, Dos Passos imitates, in a way, or takes up Flaubert's style. And I told you that Flaubert was present all over in the case of Andrews. And whenever he's with Genevieve, this idea, no, this bucolic idea of love. But we must remember that Madame Bovary ends bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
All
have
her life was a disaster.
a disaster. So the character Emma, no, is also like Andrews, no? She's a bit like Andrews, so romantic and so idealistic, and well, the novel and her life ends bad.
And incapable to accept their reality, no?
Exactly. And this is why I sent you those passages for you to see the parallelism between Andrews
Yes.
and Emma,
Emma Bovary, yes,
Bovary.
it's the
Yes.
same.
So
Always looking for something that
yes,
they don't have.
yes, unattainable. Yes, and
Yes.
and
yes.
going to her let's say distraction. Yes,
Yes.
always. So well, how brown you are, she said again. I thought I had lost you. You might kiss me, Jean. The muscles of his arms tightened about her shoulders. Her hair flamed in his eyes. The wind that rustled through broad grape leaves made a flutter of dancing light and shadow about them. How hot you are with the sun, she said. I love the smell of the sweat of your body. You must have run very hard coming here. Do you remember one night in the spring we walked home from Peleas and Melisande? How I should have liked to have kissed you then like this. Andrew's voice was strange, hoarse, as if he spoke with difficulty. Well, and you're here, no? So how wonderful you are. They sat side by side on the stone bench without touching each other. It's silly, burst out Andrews excitedly. We should have faith in our own selves. We can't live a little rag of romance without dragging in literature. We are dragged with literature so that we can never live at all of ourselves. So in a way, this is what Andrews wants for himself, to be the character in a novel. Yes, to be he will be the character.
Yes.
Jan, how did you come down here? Have you been demobilized long? I walked almost all the way from Paris. You see, I am very dirty. How wonderful, but I'll be quiet. You must tell me everything from the moment you left me in Chartres. I'll tell you about Chartres later, said Andrews gruffly. It has been superb, one of the biggest weeks in my life, walking all day under the sun with the road like a white ribbon in the sun over the hills along the riverbanks where there were yellow irises blooming, and through woods full of blackbirds, and with the dust in a little white cloud round my feet, and all the time walking towards you. And La Reine de Saba, how is it coming? I don't know. It's a long time since I thought of it. You have been here long, hardly a week, but what are you going to do? I have a room overlooking the river in a house owned by a very fat woman with a very red face and a tuft of hair on her chin. Madame Voncourt. Of course, you must know everybody. It's so small. And you're going to stay here a long time, almost forever, and work and talk to you. May I use your piano now and then? How wonderful. Genevieve jumped to her feet. Then she stood looking at him, leaning against one of the twisted stems of the vines so that the broad leaves fluttered about her face. This reference to the vines is a clear reference to Eve, no? Eva, Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And so, again, this the bucolic idea, but also the woman as a traitoress, no? Because Eve, in fact, is the one who brought damnation, let's say, no? Okay, so we have to understand that Genevieve thinks that, yes, Malena.
Genevieve here means both of things, traitor and seduction.
Yes, exactly.
And love.
Yes. And she thinks that he has been demobilized. And he doesn't say the truth.
No, he lied.
He lies.
He said, I was enjoying my life, doing many things that were
Yes,
very
and
pleasant.
write and well,
So
play piano. Well,
so you see, everything is she doesn't know what is really
no,
happening.
but he's waiting for the moment.
Yes, of
to
course.
talk to and to say the truth.
Yes.
Because the truth is very it's complicated.
Yes. Then you must always dress like that, she said after a while. Andrews laughed. A little cleaner, I hope. But there can't be much change. I have no other clothes and ridiculously little money. Who cares for money? Cried Genevieve. Andrews fancied he detected a slight affectation in her tone, but he drove the idea from his mind immediately. I wonder if there is a farm round here where I could get work. No, so he's looking for a job. But you couldn't do the work of a farm laborer, cried Genevieve, laughing. You just watch me. It'll spoil your hands for the piano. I don't care about that, but all that's later, much later. Before anything else, I must finish a thing I am working on. There is a theme that came to me when I was first in the army, when I was washing windows at the training camp. You remember when he was washing the windows and he started having a kind of rhythm, no?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
How funny you are, Jan. Oh, it's lovely to have you about again, but you are awfully solemn today. Perhaps it's because I made you kiss me. But Genevieve, it's not in one day that you can unbend a slave's back. No, so again, this idea that he was a slave. But with you in this wonderful place, oh, I've never seen such sappy richness of vegetation. So he imagines again, yes, that they could be walking along by the river, yes, with all the trees and the flowers, etc. I came by a funny little town from Vendôme to Blois. You see my feet. And what wonderful cold baths I've had on the sandbanks of the Loire. So for him, this is a wonderful world, yes? That's why he ends this speech saying, the gorgeousness of this world of yours, yes? The gorgeousness of this world of yours. Well, so she took his hand and pulled him out of the arbor. They ran like children, hand in hand, round the box-bordered paths. Again, this expression, hand in hand, is the same expression used in Paradise Lost for Adam and Eve. Yes? When they leave paradise, when they abandon paradise, they go hand in hand. Yes, I don't know if Gabriela remembers that, but this is a very typical expression, no? Adam and Eve abandon paradise hand in hand. So this is a reference to this idea that they are going to abandon paradise, this paradise. What I mean is this, he stammered, following her across the lawn. If I could once manage to express all that misery in music, I could shove it far down into my memory. I should be free to live my own existence in the midst of this carnival of summer. So he wants to write this music he's writing, the one of the rhythm of the windows, when he was cleaning the windows, because he wants to put all that far away, yes, to put that out of his mind. Well, at the house she turned to him. You see the very battered ladies over the door. They are said to be by a pupil of Jean Gauchon. They fit wonderfully in the landscape, don't they? Did I ever tell you about the sculptures in the hospital where I was when I was wounded? And this Gauchon is, I sent you the information about this sculpture.
Yes.
And the sculptures that he mentions are precisely the sculptures like, you remember the ones that Gauchon made in the Louvre, no? This on the wall. No, but I want you to look at the house now. See, that's the tower. All that's left of the old building. I live there, and right under the roof, there's a haunted room I used to be terribly afraid of. I'm still afraid of it. You see, this is Henry Quarter. Part of the house was just a fourth of the house as planned. This lawn would have been the court. We dug up foundations where the roses are. There are all sorts of traditions as to why the house was never finished. Yes, this was a house that started to be built by Henry IV. Well, they are going to the house where there is Genevieve's mother and some cousins. And he says, but can't you understand? I can't see you with other people now. Just as you like, said Genevieve, flashing her hand on the iron latch of the door. Can't I come to see you tomorrow morning? Then I shall feel more like meeting people after talking to you a long while. So he wants to talk to her. And of course, in the house, there are many people, so he doesn't go to the house.
Yes, he's looking for the moment.
He's looking, yes, for the opportunity to tell her the truth.
Yes.
His hand trembled when he put it in Genevieve's hand. She looked in his eyes calmly with her wide brown eyes. How strange you are today, Jean. Anyway, come back early tomorrow. She went in the door. He walked round the house through the carriage gate and went off with long strides down the road along the river that led under linden trees to the village. Thoughts swarmed teasingly through his head, like wasps about rotting fruit. So at last he had seen Genevieve and had held her in his arms and kissed her. And that was all. His plans for the future had never gone beyond that point. So he has achieved what he wanted, yes, to be with her and kiss her. He hardly knew what he had expected, but in all the sunny days of walking, in all the furtive days in Paris, he had thought of nothing else. He would see Genevieve and tell her all about himself. He would unroll his life like a scroll before her eyes. Together, they would piece together the future. This idea, no, that she would help him and that they would do something together. See how the word together is repeated in the same sentence. Together, they would piece together the future. A sudden terror took possession of him. She had failed him. Floods of denial seethed through his mind. It was that he had expected so much. He had expected her to understand him without explanation, instinctively. He had told her nothing. He had not even told her he was a deserter. What was it that had kept him from telling her? Puzzle as he would, he could not formulate it. Only far within him, the certainty lay like an icy weight. She had failed him. He was alone. What a fool he had been to build his whole life on a chance of sympathy. No, it was rather of this morbid playing at phrases that was at fault. He was like a touchy old maid thinking imaginary results. Take life at its face value, he kept telling himself. They loved each other anyway, somehow. It did not matter how. And he was free to work. Wasn't that enough? So he starts realizing, no, that she would not help him, that she would not understand him. But how could he wait until tomorrow to see her, to tell her everything, to break down all the silly little barriers between them, so that they might look directly into each other's lives? The road turned inland from the river between garden walls at the entrance of the village. Through half-open doors, Andrews got glimpses of neatly cultivated kitchen gardens and orchards, where silver-leaved boughs swayed against the sky. Then the road swerved again into the village. He goes into the village and he finds on the corner house, a ramshackle house with roofs and gables projecting in all directions, was a sign, Rendezvous de la Marine. The room he stepped into was so low, Andrews had to stoop under the heavy brown beams as he crossed it. Stairs went up from a door behind the worn billiard table in the corner. Madame Buncourt stood between Andrews and the stairs. She was a flabby, elderly woman with round eyes and round, wait a second, I can't move the page, wait. and round, very red face, and a curious smirk about the lips. Monsieur payer un petit peu advance, n'est-ce pas, monsieur? All right, said Andrews, reaching for his pocketbook. Shall I pay you a week in advance? The woman smiled broadly. See, Monsieur Desire, it's that life is so dear nowadays. Poor people like us can barely get along. I know that only too well, said Andrews. Well, so he gives her the money for a week in advance. Yes, I was only demobilized a short time ago. Monsieur demobilized. Monsieur replied, le petit felier pour la police, n'est-ce pas? The woman brought from behind her back a hand that held a narrow printed slip. All right, I'll fill it out now. Of course, as a guest in the hotel, he has to sign, no? Without thinking what he was doing, he put the paper on the edge of the billiard table and wrote, John Brown, age 23, Chicago, Uni musician, holder of passport number. Merci, monsieur, et bientôt, monsieur, au revoir, monsieur. Look at the name he invented for himself, John Brown.
John Brown.
Well, now we'll
from
see. From the song.
The song.
The woman's, claro. The woman's
From the
singing voice
song.
followed him up the rickety stairs to his room. It was only when he had closed the door that he remembered that he had put down for a passport number his army number. So, the number that came to his head. And why did he write John Brown as a name, he asked himself. And now he remembers the song. This is a very popular song. Gabriela must remember it from a long time ago, no? John Brown's body lies smoldering in the grave, but his soul goes marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah, but his soul goes marching on. Es como una canción medio infantil, como la de Mambrú se fue a la guerra, algo por el estilo.
Claro.
And John Brown is a typically English name, very common name, como Juan Pérez.
Claro, como Smith, como John Smith.
He heard the song so vividly that he thought for an instant someone must be standing beside him singing it. He went to the window and ran his hand through his hair. Outside the door rumbled in great loops towards the blue distance. So, see how his thoughts are very complex, no? Because he expects to find sympathy in Genevieve, but at the same time, he knows that she won't be sympathetic with him. No, he has this premonition that she will not understand him. Gradually, John Andrews felt the silvery quiet settle about him. He pulled a sausage and a piece of bread out of the pocket of his coat, took a long swig of water from the pitcher on his washstand, and settled himself at the table before the window in front of a pile of ruled sheets of music paper. He nibbled the bread and the sausage meditatively for a long while, then wrote our beat and rhythms. This is something that appears at the very beginning of the novel, yes? This was a book, you remember I told you, I sent you the information about a very old German book for musicians.
Yes.
Yes. So, and at the same time, the meaning is organization and rhythm. So he settles to write this song about the cleaning of the windows. And he decided the name of the song. Suddenly he scratched out what he had written and scrawled above it, the body and soul of John Brown. He got to his feet and walked about the room with clenched hands. How curious that I should have written that name. How curious that I should have written that name. He sat down at the table again and forgot everything in the